Hello, everyone, and welcome to SportsBeat on WOUB. Thank you so much for tuning in. I'm your host today, Conor Mallonn, and joining me, we have a fantastic lineup.
Luke Schmitt,
Kasey Hill,
Logan Adams,
Ben Axelrod.
For today's episode, we're going to begin with Ohio softball as they win a key series against Central Michigan, and we'll flip to baseball, who had a rough weekend but bounced back on Tuesday night. We'll cover track and field, including the Cherry Blossom Invitational, and there's a juicy Read and React segment before our Final Four coverage, the Cavaliers, and the MLB's opening week. SportsBeat starts right now. Welcome back to the table, guys, and we're going to kick it off with Ohio softball as they win their a pretty big conference series over Central Michigan, taking Game 1 and Game 3 over the Chippewas. Kasey, what do you got for us?
Yeah, 3-game series, like you said, in Athens. Won that series 2-1. The team's overall record moves to 22-12, and the MAC record 5-4. Split games on Saturday, 1-1. First game was a 6-3 win, and the second was the only loss of the weekend, 3-5. 6 runs, 10 hits, and no errors on the first game. Typical Belle Hummel we saw went for 3 for 3 plus a homer, walk, and RBI, and then 2 runs for herself. Senior Colleen Bear is right behind her. Goes 3 for 4 from the plate, also a homer and a double and an RBI and 1 run for herself. So these girls are just racking up the stats. I love yapping about them. Brenna Farmer and Riley McDaniel both added a home run, so that's 4 for the game. And then Skip Miller started the game. She pitched 7 innings and then got her 12th win of the season. Game 2 was the loss, like I said, 6 hits with 3 errors, I think it was, something like that. So there's the pattern that I talk about a lot. Farmer had another home run and an RBI and a run scored. Wilson, Jordan Wyckoff, and Bear all had a double. Mikey Living and Keegan Moore split the inning for the mound, and then Moore ended her innings with 4 strikeouts, I think it was. And then CMU got on the board right off the bat, no pun intended, whoops, by taking advantage of a Ohio fielding error. So just got to lock down on those small things, the consistency there.
Yeah, good to see the bats kind of got warmed up early. So talk a little bit more about that power, especially as we move on to, Game 3 where they, once again, come back.
That is going to be the power. There were 5 home runs in this game, 12-7 win, 12 runs on 8 hits, only 1 error. Bats came alive so fast, like you said, dominating 6-0 before the second inning.
Wow.
Homers from Bear, Farmer, Shelby Wessler, Sydney Young, and McDaniel. Skip pitched better this game. She got only 2 innings off the start, but she struck out 3. And then Keegan Moore took the win on this with 4 innings and then 3 strikeouts as well. Top of the 7th inning, CMU managed to load their bases with only 1 out, but Ohio's defense held them to 2 runs. And this series ended on a win there.
Yeah, you love to see it. And, now Ohio is sitting first in the MAC in home runs, and they're in a bit of an interesting spot overall as the MAC sort of falls back out and sort of shakes out as conference play sort of kicks off. You have Akron, Toledo, and Miami all sitting in sort of 3-way tie, and then Ohio sort of leads the pack, as you would say, in the 5-way tie for what is technically 4th at this point.
Gotcha, yep.
Moving on from the Central Michigan series, let's talk a little bit more about the softball team and where they're looking at.
Yep, they have Ball State on the road this upcoming weekend. Ball State's near the bottom of the standings, but they have a few players to look out for, I would say. They're headed to Muncie, Indiana, like I said, 3-game series. Ball State is 14-15 overall, and then only 2-7 in the MAC. Interestingly, they're 0 for 4 at home. Odd to see.
Yeah.
For comparison across the MAC, Ball State has had their series against Toledo, and so has Ohio. So their series against Toledo went basically the same way. They lost 2-1 out of the 3 games, but their games were also very high scoring. So we know the bats are just going to be strong on the top and the bottom of each inning. But as long as Ohio can limit those errors and defend well and really focus on the ground ball, something like that, Ball State's actually not going to be too hard of a challenge. And they do have 3 girls batting over 400. Interesting to see from a team with a losing record. Ohio only has 1 batting over 400 with Belle Hummel. So bats are going to be hot.
Yeah, absolutely. Any particular players that you guys want to see stand out this week, especially with a more middle of the pack, bottom side of the pack team in Ball State that they can kind of use to build momentum as they work deeper into conference play?
I want to see my sports management friends, Jordan and Kylie. They're gonna get it going.
Yeah, I'd like to see a lot of the girls who have been good so far this season, continue to have good performances. I think having a consistent game against the Ball State team, which we've talked about, not as good as this OU team, is a nice run, test where they are at this point in MAC play, because they're pretty good at MAC play so far. So I think this will be a good test of strength for them.
I'd be really happy to see a consistent week from Skip Miller. They're going to throw her out, have her throw a ton of pitches, probably 2 games this week. But it's just about the consistency, like you said, Kasey, and I think getting that out of her is going to be key.
100%. Continuing on with the other diamond at OU, Ohio baseball took on Ball State and unfortunately got swept by the Cardinals. Not a great slate of games from them, but Logan, you want to break that down for us?
Yeah, it wasn't a pretty series, 0-3. We're going to start with game 1, obviously. Brennan Garza, Ball State's pitcher, threw a no-hitter against the Bobcats. Ohio can get a hit against the second-year sophomore. Just a bad performance all around. I'm not going to mince words. Hitting's been is going to get a lot of the credit, but they get struck out 7 times in 20 at-bats. That's over a third of them without producing a hit. But pitching didn't show up either. 1 strikeout at 33 at-bats is pretty awful, to say the least. There's not a lot you can say offensively about a no-hitter performance. Ball State's a good team. Ohio isn't, but this is the 11th game. Ohio's given up 10-plus runs of what turned into 13 over the weekend. Game 2 and 3, we're going to combine those two just because it's kind of the same story. Ohio managed to score 7 runs in both, ended up getting blown out despite that. 16 total innings in these 2 games. They gave up 31 runs on 28 hits. That's not great, to say the least. It feels weird to just pile on how bad this team has played, but that was just a shameful performance. Now, granted, it is against the top team in the MAC in Ball State. They lead in MAC record. They're not the best record overall. They play Kent State next, who has the best overall record, but just not a great start. However, we got a win against Marshall.
There we go. You love to see a big bounce back, especially after. A no-hitter is concerning, to say the least, especially after we've had the pitching conversations all year, especially after having a lot of the early run give-up innings. So let's talk about some positive baseball.
It turns out when you don't give up double-digit runs, you have a better shot at winning.
Hey, look at that!
Ohio beat Marshall 5-3 on Tuesday on a tie-breaking homer from Will Henson in the top of the 9th. Senior Dylan Masters was credited with the win, coming out of the bullpen to give 2 2/3 innings of dominance, conceding 1 hit on 2 strikeouts. I want to give credit to Evan Lichtenauer. Apologies if I pronounced that wrong. Who gave a strong 5 innings with 0 earned runs and 3 strikeouts.
I hate to bring this team back down just a little bit, just because seeing how they won that Bowling Green series last weekend with those 2 games, and then they went into that Ball State series and they were outscored 14-41. And so after this Marshall game, I don't want to see a slide like that Bowling Green performance again, where they have some comfortable wins and then they go and then they can't. The bats are hot, as we saw in those last 2 games. They had 7 runs in both of those games, but again, double digits this isn't the first time we've seen this season. So again, just things I want to see cleaned up, if anything, and going into this Kent State series.
Especially when you're looking at a team like Kent State, who is a significantly more highly ranked team in the MAC. You look at how Ohio has fared over the last couple of games, and there are some red flags that do get thrown up. And do you guys want to Logan, do you want to dig into that a little bit more?
Yeah,
any concerns that we have with, a no-hitter is very clearly a pretty big red flag in the air. Is there anything we can kind of dig into in that?
Yeah, there just haven't been enough performances where Ohio showed up on both sides of the plate. And that's what you're going to need to win against a team like Kent State, who sits 20-7, 9-3 in MAC play. If we want to go into that series, it's going to be a tough one. Ohio's got some momentum on its side, but Kent State also won its last game. They're only trailing Ball State on the season. That's how good this team is. And they have all 3 of their top 3 pitchers, the rotational starters, are top 20 in ERA in the MAC with Kieran Coffey and Easton Toomis, both top 6 in strikeouts as well. Sawyer Saltaria, he's a guy you got to watch out at the plate on offense. He's littered all over the top hitting stats in the MAC. You're going to have to worry about both sides of the ball against this team. And as we said, that's just something that Ohio hasn't got a lot this season, at least in the same game.
Yeah, this is very much a David and Goliath situation with Kent State and Ohio in terms of overall season performance. So looking back a little bit, we'll take a bit of a poll of the season so far, because I'd like your opinion on this.
Yeah.
6-21, 3-9 in conference. Not the best start in the world, but they're not at the bottom of the MAC. How much of the success and or failure do we have to place on head coach Andrew C., especially in his first year?
I think regardless of what we say about the season he's had and the season that his team has produced, you got to give him a couple more years, because it's a new area for him. He's learning how to recruit out of this area. He's learning how his talent's going to look. And all these guys that are on the team aren't guys that he recruited. This is a guy who comes in with a pitching acumen, just a huge, successful resume as far as pitching goes, and it just hasn't worked out this year. Mm-hmm. You got to trust that the priors kind of build into the future as far as that goes. And this season hasn't been great. There is credit to throw at Andrew C. for that, but it's an all-around thing. It's the it's the personnel. It's the fact that there was a change in athletic directors, possibly impacting recruiting throughout his transition there, and you just got to give him a couple more years.
Yeah.
I think it's just a difficult pill to swallow, as, I mean, we've been talking about double-digit losses for this baseball team since February. You know, it feels like it just keeps happening. You know, it's the type of thing where I don't know if it comes down to the coaching, conditioning, or, you know, the players just aren't responding well to the coaching. But, I mean, it just seeing the repetitive pattern of, you know, it's almost the same thing every game. Pitching can't keep up with hitting, and then they can't, you know, do well on both sides of the ball. So, I mean, going into this last half of the season, I just like to see that cycle break just a little bit if that's all we get. You know, like you said, Logan, if this season prepares them more for the future, I like to see more of a step forward to the future, less than just a repetitive cycle where you're stuck and you can't really get out.
Yeah.
Anybody that you guys would hope to stand out to kind of break that cycle? I know we've seen a couple of the freshman pitchers be a little bit more standout, and a couple of the veteran hitters have come to the plate every once in a while. Any particular names you think pop out to you? I'm
just going to say the bullpen in general. You look at that Marshall game, and it's a great start and finish, but you have 3 earned runs given up and I think less than 2 innings in the middle. That's not something that you want to see if you want to win games, especially in a low-scoring bout like that where you end up needing a 9th inning home run, scoring 2 to comfortably win it. So you just need pitching throughout to be consistent. You can't have guys giving up innings like that, and I think that's kind of just going to be my takeaway is pitching staff needs to show up.
All right. Well, thank you for breaking it down for us, Logan. Moving on from the diamond to the track, Ohio University track and field season kicked off last weekend with the Raleigh Relay. Luke, how'd the Bobbies do?
You know, we don't get a lot of time to talk about, you know, this girls' track and field team much on the show, and it's also because they have a very short season. You know, they're indoor until basically March, and then once the season starts, which has started last week with the Raleigh Invitational, they go and they have a bunch of invitationals until about the beginning of May. And then after that, it's prelims and champs. So looking at this first track meet for the Bobcats, I mean, there were 91 teams at the Raleigh Relays. I mean, we have so many big, you know, D1 powerhouse schools: Notre Dame, Kentucky, Clemson, NC State, Alabama, Michigan. And of those schools I mentioned, Clemson, Kentucky, Michigan, and Virginia are top 20 in the country. So you're going to, when I list, you know, where they play, these girls placed in the races, you just take all of this with a grain of salt, because with 91 teams, I mean, there's like more than 100 runners in each of these events. So looking at some of the big performances from the day, you have Olivia Mentlow. She was 22nd in the 200-meter out of, again, 149 runners with a 24:37. Sydney Huckstep, 30th in the 400 meters out of 126 runners with a 55 high. And then Kelsey Harris was 16th out of 68 in the 10K with a 34:04. And this is a very different type of invitational for this team because, we'll talk about the Cherry Blossom. Cherry Blossom last year only about had 10 or so teams. Much different size comparison for, a type of relay, but there's still a lot of good performances to come out of this. My favorite performances from that race were from Ellie Greenwell. I ran distance in high school, so I love giving acknowledgement to those distance athletes, but Ellie Greenwell was 46 out of 218 with a 423 in the 1500 meter. I mean, with this competition, that is an insane time. And she also ran a great race in the 800. And I really like what this team did with this relay. You went to a invitational with 91 other teams, a bunch of teams in the top of the country. And I think that's super important because that is a statement way to begin your track season. You start out with a bunch of teams you probably won't ever really see again in this track season, and then you just kind of go down this list because you have Cherry Blossom next weekend in that big race against a bunch of powerhouse teams that comes down to a more local level next week.
Yeah, you love to see the Bobcats really setting the tone, especially at such a big stage. I mean, like you mentioned, these are some pretty serious teams, and these are athletes that not every MAC school is going to get the opportunity to compete against. You really love to see OU not only performing at the big stage, but, not playing to the best of their ability and really setting the tone. So moving, like you said, we're going to take a little bit step closer to home. Break down the Cherry Blossom for us. I know that's a big thing, not just for you, but for Athens as a whole.
Yeah, I'm really excited for the Cherry Blossom Invitational. It was a lot of fun last year when I was covering that meet. It was pretty rainy. There were puddles everywhere on the track, but, they were some great performances last year, and it was a lot of fun to watch. And so looking at the comp, we don't have a clear list of who will be there this year, but last year teams like OSU was there. OSU was also at Cherry Blossom, so that's a familiar face. And there were other MAC schools like Akron, Toledo, and Ball State. So you got some local competition, some MAC competition, and also some top dogs like Ohio State. So I think the competition range is going to be very good for Cherry Blossom. And Cherry Blossom is really cool because it's basically like a home invite for OU. They're doing a senior recognition for the women's track team 15 minutes before they start the events. And I think that is just really cool because not a lot of teams get that because track invites are going all the way across the country, as we'll see with some later where they go to Wake Forest and a bunch of other meets across the country like Raleigh. And, Cherry Blossom, I'm really excited to see what they do post this Raleigh Relay Invitational because, like you said, you saw a lot of big schools duke it out. And really the only other MAC schools I noticed that were from Raleigh was Miami of Ohio. Xavier was also there, but dialing it back to some local level competition, some D2 and D3 schools will be there, I'm assuming, like last year. I'm really excited for Cherry Blossom, and I think a bunch of people should show out to this meet because it is a lot of fun to watch track meets.
Absolutely. So a little bit of context. You said you covered it in the rain last year. Looking at the weather for Friday, it is scheduled to rain again. What is that sort of like in terms of how it affects competition?
It does slow your times down a little bit. I loved running in the rain, and I noticed last year there were still a lot of PRs in the rain. A lot of girls pulled off really good times. And, it is a long day of running. Events start at noon, field and track events start at noon, and it goes all the way up to 6 p.m. with the 4x4, which is my personal favorite event. I think that's the most fun meet to watch. So it'll be a long day of running. There's some scattered showers throughout the day. So I think some races will be impacted more than others. But, other than that, weather has been beautiful this week. It should be a great relay for the girls.
Any particular runners you think are going to kick it off for OU?
I'm excited to see Ellie Greenwell again. Just seeing how fast she was in that national meet with 91 other teams, dialing that back to a much smaller meet where you have a chance to really show it to the competition. I'm really excited for this race.
Awesome. Thank you so much for breaking it down for us, Luke. Moving on to our next segment, we're going to hit some quick hits. We're going to give a little spotlight to some OU sports, but we're gonna start teeing it off with some golf news. Logan, get it going for us.
I see what you did there, Connor. Tee it off. Ohio's men golf placed tied for 6th in the Sweeten Coves Golf Club out of 8 teams, winning 1 matchup and losing the other 2. Queens would go on to win the Invitational with 2 wins and 1 losses, as the Royals were the only team with 2 matches, because there was a 4-way tie for 2nd, where the teams won once and tied twice, including BG and Miami.
I got Ohio women's golf. They just concluded their recent event at the Georgia State Invitational. The team finished 9th out of 14 teams. They were 6th after day 1 but fell late. However, sophomore Allie Turner and junior Morgan Rogers placed in the top 25 out of 88 golfers. Turner recorded her best placement of the year at 15th, despite the event holding nearly 90 athletes. impressive work from the women's golf team.
There is a fun week ahead for both Ohio men's and women's golf on April 6th through the 8th. They will be traveling to South Carolina for the Golf Week Stifel Challenge. Nearly 30 colleges are going to be at the event. It'll be a busy week for the Bobcats, but that's going to do it for our quick hits. We're going to move on to another pretty quick segment, but it is a bit broader spectrum. Read and React is back. Biggest headlines, hottest topics in national sports, and we are going to hit it off with a pretty hot one as Tiger Woods has announced he is stepping away from golf to focus on his health and seek treatment. What does the table feel about the current state of the Tiger Woods story?
I'm glad he's seeking help. I'm really glad he's seeking treatment.
I'm also just worried that it's a cop-out to say I don't want media attention now, so please don't point your cameras at me while I seek treatment.
Can you not afford a personal driver? Like, come on. He has to be able to. Like, if he's going to drink and drive, just, like, pay for Uber Black. Like, we know you can afford it.
I think in the grand scheme of the golf world, understanding the fact that Tiger Woods has more DUIs than John Daly is just an incredible number.
I think it's for the love of the game, and I think that's why he doesn't have a personal driver.
He just likes to drive his Range Rovers and then buy new ones.
Yeah, he's found that high for himself, and he's just seeking it constantly.
he's found the way to get his kicks, and it's rollover crashes every half decade or
Probably
so.
have to get into F1 next.
He's got to dial it in. I mean, when you're Tiger Woods, you're arguably the face of the sport. And, you know, if you guys see a guy like LeBron doing this or like a Patrick Mahomes in the NFL, like, it's just not a good look.
I mean, we'll talk about the NBA shenanigans here in a minute, but, like, you do have to remember that, like, there was the Dylan Brooks drama earlier and the LaMelo Ball crashing his Cybertruck through the streets of Charlotte. So, I mean, say what you will, I think there is the incredible pressure of being famous does kind of, I mean, I guess it does have an impact on your driving skills.
Maybe.
We'll see.
Who knows?
Who knows, indeed. But moving on, like I said, we're going to talk about some NBA drama as Jaden Ivey was waived from the Chicago Bulls after a Instagram live rant talking about how the Bulls are liars and a large list of things that he went and commented on, including NBA celebration of pride and how they choose to celebrate, which is, you know, interesting comments to say the least.
It's hard to, you know, digest all this because, you know, there's so much, you know, hearsay about what was said, but, you know, I know some credible sources reported how it turned into a situation where Ivey's, you know, his words, his speech, and performance was impacting the locker room negatively, impacting the coaching staff negatively. You know, a lot of players, you know, came out and said, according to Joe Crowley, that they were uncomfortable with, you know, everything that was going on.
Yeah.
And I think it's also really important for NBA world, and also this has gone to a broader social, political spectrum to understand. Jaden Ivey did not play that well with the Bulls. He did not play many games with the Bulls.
No.
And it's just been tough for Ivey because of, you know, getting traded from the Pistons. His career's been riddled with injuries. So it's definitely a very lengthy and digestive story for the readers to understand.
And I think the NBA made the right move here. I mean, there's been so much momentum made to get LGBTQ fans involved and push for a larger section of that fan base. I believe there was a TV show that was viral a few months ago that kind of pushed for an NHL fan to.
Oh, God.
Regardless. But I think this was the right move by the NBA to just by the Bulls to say, hey, we're cutting this off right away. Billy Donovan went on there and said, we have standards off the court that need to be upheld, and I think that was the perfect way to put it, to not get the flack and all that just drama out of the window.
Yeah, you talk about standards. He's talking about this stuff on a Instagram live while he's driving with his phone under his chin, and he's like half not even paying attention to what's going on. You have freedom of speech, but you don't get to hate on a fan base and then think that you can still keep your job, because a company and a team and a business has a reputation to uphold, and if you don't meet that reputation, then you're cut off, and that's normal.
Like you said, at the end of the day, the NBA is a business, and when the employees of that business decide that they want to go against what the NBA has been promoting and pushing in a positive way for a considerable period of time, and we've seen that progression in how the NBA has approached bringing fans from different communities into the fan base as a whole. They've been doing a great job of it, and I think the fact that they took such appropriate action with such speed speaks volumes to the statement that the NBA wants to make about how they want to approach these kinds of things.
There's no room for hate in sports.
Exactly.
Beautifully said.
All right, moving on to one last topic before we get into a little shift in gears. Max Verstappen has talked about his seriousness in leaving F1, and he's made up his mind over a lot of factors. So 4-time Formula One Series champion Max Verstappen has been really open about the possibility of leaving Formula One after this season. He is 28. He's been racing in F1 since he was 17. But within the last 3 years, he's been pretty skeptical, very open about his opinions on the way the sport has progressed over the last couple of years. And he's talked to the reporters of the BBC Sports and told himself that he questions if it is worth it and should he enjoy being at home with family or friends, or even switching to if he will take his sport across the seas or move to the IndyCar, NASCAR, or a different sports car racing league. I mean, this is a guy who he was the man who dethroned Lewis Hamilton. This is a storied racer. Anyone else at the table want to weigh in on their opinions?
I think that's cool of him to do that, kind of like analyze the state of F1 and, where his comfortability is with it. I think that's something not a lot of players do. We've seen a lot of players step back from professional leagues over the last couple of years. I know AJ Griffin, he stepped back from the NBA and he became a pastor. So seeing different sports kind of tackle that idea of, is the travel worth it? Is, being away from friends and family worth it? I think that's really cool that, even someone this popular in the F1 world is, kind of taking a step back.
Yeah.
Frankly, I just think, he's made millions and millions of dollars. He's got tons of sponsorships. He's only 28 years old. He's probably got enough money to retire comfortably for the rest of his life. I'd consider leaving too, regardless of if it was worth it or not. Work is work. And if you're constantly traveling away from your family and you have the opportunity to continue to do commercials, maybe take a broadcasting position or every, couple of years, I'd do it 100%. I'd consider it.
Yeah, he's at the top of the world in his perspective sport, and I think I would agree, Logan. The fact that he's questioning the worth of sticking around Formula One speaks so much to the value of where he's positioned in the sport, because his position is so valuable to Formula One, in my opinion. And I think it's really interesting to just see him go off and do what he really wants to do in his own time. Shout out to Jake Collins in the booth saying that he might just go be a streamer, his true passion, which is true. He does have.
I have got a streamer.
We have
too.
seen him on streams at 3 a.m. before going to race, which is just an incredible thing to see. Gotta love Formula One in the headlines, even if it's not for the best. Moving on to our last of our read and react, the UConn game winner as Duke chokes a 19-point lead. Dan Hurley not excited as UConn takes down Duke.
I'd argue Dan Hurley looks pretty excited. He went up and headbutted a ref after.
How you define excitement is to your own discretion. But
I think he's just a psychopath.
I fully agree in that regard. Logan, you are the pseudo basketball man at the table.
Pseudo basketball man.
Let's talk about it.
Just an incredible performance from UConn. Duke, I think these are just the stipulations that you get with a young team where you're kind of expecting to choke these larger leads. You're making those crucial mistakes that like Caden Boozer and then Isaiah Evans made by turning over the ball and then not getting a hand up on a to win the game.
It was Caden. It wasn't Cameron.
It was Caden, yeah.
Okay.
Caden's the one who tried to throw the ball up.
Okay.
Cam, incredible game, incredible tournament, incredible college career that's going to end with him ultimately being like a top 3 or 4 pick in the NBA draft. But year after year, we've seen these Shire-led Duke teams who are primed by freshmen just fall short in the tournament.
Mm-hmm. I think, okay, do we want to blame it on Shire?
No.
Or do we want to blame it on the constantly leaving underclassmen?
I think Shire's a great coach, first and foremost. I watch a lot of Duke games, and it's just he's a masterful play caller. He always gets his sets ready to put forth the best aspects of his team. But, yeah, it's just what lost in the game. It's a crucial mistakes down the stretch, open shots, just lapses, front running, all that kind of stuff.
Duke is a hard school because Duke is like the school, I feel like, where like freshmen coming from high school, they want to go to Duke if they're that good. I feel like Duke is a really good place for those blue chip Cooper Flag boozers to thrive. But I think it's hard when it comes to transfers, and I think this is the way that the sport is moving, where getting transfers from other teams is really propelling those teams that win at the end of the year to the tournament. And I think it's hard for Duke because they have such a reputation for being that blue chip Zion led team, that when it comes to teams like UConn, where they have guys who've been there for more years than a lot of these freshmen, I think it really does come down to knowledge of the game and skill played in that game.
Yeah. Well, thanks for breaking it down for us. We're going to move on from Read and React, smooth transition straight into a little bit more basketball, as the NCAA tournament has cut it down from 16 to 8 to 4. I mean, Logan, we'll have you cover the Med side. What headlines do we have from the last weekend?
Yeah, a little quick division there, Connor. I'm very impressed. But we actually didn't talk a ton about the shot that won the game. We talked a lot about Duke, but credits to Braylon Mullen, the freshman stepping up in the senior-led UConn team. Just one of the most iconic shots I've ever seen live, and I think probably going to be one of the ones that lives in just the mythos of March Madness for a while. But other than that, dominant performance across the field from the other elite Final Four teams. Illinois taking down Iowa 71-59. Michigan handedly taking down number 6 Tennessee 95-62. Yaxel Lendeborg 27 points in that one, and then Arizona 79-64 win over Purdue. We're not going to be seeing any more Braden Smith, Trey Coffin-Renner, Oscar Kloof in college basketball, for better or worse.
We're losing a lot of legends of the game as the season winds down, and we've cut it down to some pretty interesting teams.
Indeed.
I mean, you've got a pretty good pick for the first matchup of our Final Four, Illinois and UConn. Let's hear it.
I'm just going to start this off by saying I think it's pretty inevitable that it's going to be UConn, Michigan, but just based on momentum, who's playing well, whatever. But I don't think UConn can win this game or lose this game after a shot like that. There's a level of demoralization that they think they're carrying into this against every team that they play from now on. But this is just an incredible roster with some of the winningest players currently in college basketball, including the winningest player in college basketball currently, Alex Karaban, and probably the most dominant player in the tournament, Terrace Reed, who's averaging 21.8 points and 13.5 rebounds. He had a 31.27 rebound performance in the first game of the tournament for UConn. Just incredible numbers.
Those are just ridiculous numbers.
Yeah, Logan, I like your UConn pick. I'm not super on board with the Michigan pick because I really like what Arizona's done in this tournament so far. I think the comp that they've played is good. And I think Arizona and Michigan have played an equal level of comp, between good teams, teams that kind of fight to the Elite Eight. But, this is basically the natty game.
Yeah, Jake put that in our notes. I'm going to echo it here. This is essentially probably going to be the natty game because I don't think either team between UConn or Illinois is going to beat whoever ends up winning that matchup.
I agree.
Not in the slightest. Yeah, I fully agree. Not in the slightest chance. Unfortunately, I was in Chicago this past weekend. Illinois fans were packing every place they could to watch these Sweet 16 and Elite 8 games, and as much love and support as they can give to the Illini, even if they beat UConn, they're going to get deleted by Arizona in the finals.
Yes. And, I mean, all credit to Illinois, too. I've kind of counted them out at this point already, but they have one of the best freshmen in the nation, Keaton Wagler. They have just a roster full of potential X factors.
Yeah.
I think the biggest one that stands out for me is the Ivisic twins.
Yes.
Zvonimir and Tomislav.
Peja's son, too, has played really good,
Andrei
too.
Stojakovic, yep. He's incredible, too. But I think the Ivisic twins are going to stand out a lot just because of the size they bring against this really dominant front court from UConn. Keaton Wagler's nice. We're going to expect shot making from him. We're going to expect nuance in the pick and roll, just leading this offense like he's done all year. But I think it's going to need more than that for the Illini. I think for UConn, though, picking the X factor there, no simpler than just Braylon Mullins continuing to show up. He hasn't had the best year shooting the ball. That's what he got his 5-star reputation for. But shots like that build confidence.
Logan, do you think Mullins will stay in college, or do you think he'll go to the draft after this?
I think it's 50-50. I think these moments get you a better NIL package than they do draft reputation, because scouts are looking at the full season. They're not just looking at March Madness. That's why Johnny Juzang wasn't a top 10 whatever pick. But moving on to Arizona, Michigan briefly, you're looking at maybe the 2 best players in the tournament, just pound for pound, and Yaxel Lendeborg and Ade Mara on Michigan, against probably the deepest rotation in college basketball in Arizona. They're top 8. Any of those guys could go star on any number of teams in this tournament and be fine. But we're really going to highlight the freshmen, Braden Burries and Koa Pete, in this game. Koa Pete's been one of the best players in this tournament, just in terms of recent performances. He had 21 points and 10 rebounds, I believe, in their Final Four game, just on a dominant run. And I think if Arizona ends up winning this game, it's going to be because he translated that production against this dominant Michigan front court.
Dude, I just love hearing you talk about basketball. You just know, like, genuinely, you just know ball. It's awesome. All right, we're gonna hit a quick lap around the table real quick. We're in the Final Four, but I'd like to hear the table's picks. We're gonna go for national champion. Start with you, Luke. Who you got?
Going with Zona. You know, that was a team I picked for my March Madness bracket, and I'm sticking with them. You know, I didn't even do the second chance tournament because I wanted to dial in on the Wildcats. I like the Wildcats to win the Natty.
Love the confidence. Casey?
Same here. I've had Arizona since day one.
There you go. 2 for 2. Logan?
It truly, truly pains me to say this is a Columbus kid, and the Cleveland WNBA team's Instagram post.
That was really fun.
Yesterday, by the time this releases, about the Cleveland Wolverines or whatever. It hurt, but I'm going Michigan.
Ben, close it out for us.
Yeah, as an Ohio guy, I did pick Michigan on my bracket, and I'm sticking with it. They just have great height, and they're just going to be tough to stop. Confident in them.
God, half this table is just breaking my heart.
Sorry, Connor.
God, I'm gonna take Arizona as well. I'm loving what they've got. So one last question for you before we flip sides of the bracket. What do, I guess, David need to do to beat Goliath in this sense? UConn or Illinois, if they do manage to really take that national title from the hands of the de facto championship game, what's it going to take?
It's going to take some this is a tough question. You're putting me on the spot here, but
maybe a comeback from a 19 deficit.
Something like that. Something like that. Duke was my champion. That game hurt deep in my core. But I mean, UConn could do it for sure. This is a team with winning pedigree. Alex Caravan, like I said, already has 2 NCAA championships under his belt. Could be the first player since the 50s or 60s, I think, to have 3 in an NCAA career.
Crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, since I think it was UCLA's run back in either the late 60s or the early 70s. But yeah, you've got just winning pedigree. You've got a coach who's willing to probably kill a ref to
that was really
to win the game. And for Illinois, I think this team can outshoot anybody. Defense has kind of been wishy-washy depending on who they played. And I think Michigan and Arizona can both kind of just take it to them in terms of size. But if they get hot shooting, it's going to be hard to stop them from heating up and just keep going.
Yeah, you love to hear it. Well, thank you to the basketball textbook himself for breaking it down. Flipping from the NCAA men's bracket to the women's bracket as the Final Four is heating up, we're going to jump in because there have been some pretty interesting storylines for the last 4 programs left alive. Casey, you want to give it to us?
Yeah, I'm not going to be as professional as Logan, but I'll do my best. South Carolina versus UConn. The great Gene and Stanley rivalry. April 3rd, 7 p.m. tip-off. UConn now is on a 54-game winning streak after dominating Notre Dame in the Elite Eight. For anyone wondering, I have the longest winning streak in women's NCAA pulled up here. UConn has all 3 top spots. 111 wins, 90, and then 70. All under the same coach, Gino Auriemma. Thank you, Connor. So UConn is favored 6.5, currently 38-0, obviously, while SC is only 35-3. But Gamecocks got some good players. 6'3" forward, she's averaging almost 20 points a game and is shooting 58% from the field. And then UConn's Husky, Sarah Strong, is averaging almost 19 points and shoots 59.4% from the field. This is funny. Out of UConn's last 4 games in the tournament, North Carolina was the closest to beating them. I say closest. It was a 21-point difference. That's the closest anyone has come to beating UConn in this tournament, 21 points. I don't really think I could attempt to argue for anyone other than UConn women's basketball right now.
I fully agree. We've seen UConn basically just become the factory of WNBA players, and
exactly.
the dominance continues in another great generation of Geno dominance.
Yes.
So break it down on the other side. We've got
Texas and UCLA. This game is so tricky for me. The teams are so close, averaging 85 points-ish, both averaging 50% from the field-ish, and then Texas is 35-3 and UCLA is 35-1. Texas is barely favored by 1.5. So either could take that one for me, but it's not really going to affect my bracket because UConn should dominate either Texas or UCLA. And I think this Husky squad will be the 11th women's team to be undefeated national champions, but it's only the 7th. It would only be the 7th time for UConn. So I just think they're going to kill it.
Double-digit national title team already going for the 11th is just ridiculous. I mean, Texas and UCLA have one national title between the two of them, and it's from 40 years ago. I mean, do we think that one of these two teams has the opportunity to take down? I used the David and Goliath because comedy comes in threes. We're just going to use it again. Do we think a team can actually take down Goliath in UCLA?
It's not. I want to bring it back to the men's UConn situation. You don't see a 20-point deficit be eaten away so quickly in women's basketball that you do with men's. I think that it's just going to end up being a slow blowout and a slow burnout.
I mean, these 1 seeds are so good at basketball. I'm looking at the bracket. These games aren't close. UCLA
None
beat
of them are
Duke
close.
by 12. Looking at the other one, South Carolina beat TCU by, quick math, is at 26. And then Texas, blew out Michigan in the Elite Eight. So I'm really excited to see these 1 seeds duke it out because they've clearly shown in this tournament they are the best teams this season.
I don't think we can. I want to harken back real quick to that Notre Dame game because they put an end to, honestly, one of the most craziest statistical performances I've seen from an individual player ever. Hannah Hidalgo from Notre Dame, up until that UConn game, was averaging 27 points, 11 rebounds, 5 assists, and 9 steals per game.
9 steals?
She had 26 steals in the first 3 rounds, including a triple-double with 31 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 steals against Vanderbilt in the round of 16.
Brother, what?
Just the first seed dominates.
She had only 3 steals against UConn, bringing her average down from 8.7 to 7.3. And then more turnovers than assists for the first time in the tournament as well. I just think, that's just the team that this UConn team is.
God, they just eviscerate every team they come across. It's unbelievable to watch. Wow. I mean, yeah, I hate to say that. I feel like, can we all collectively agree, UConn?
Yes, UConn's going to win.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess that makes it a little bit easier for that. Moving on, we're gonna switch from the college basketball world to the professional basketball world. For the first time in nearly a month, I get to say the table is talking about the Cleveland Cavaliers. Eastern Conference playoff is almost set. The Cavs are about to clinch what is most likely going to end up being the 4th seed. Ben, what have we seen over the last couple of games from the Cleveland Cavaliers?
So the Cavs on Monday defeated the Jazz 122-113 in their first game of a West Coast road trip. You had Evan Mobley scoring 34 points and grabbing 17 rebounds, along with Donovan Mitchell dropping 34 points. It was a struggle from 3 in that game. Cavs only shot 19% against the Jazz, but they did get a lot of baskets in the paint. And then they went on to play the Lakers in Los Angeles the next night, lost 127-113. And Yeah, northeast of Ohio's in LeBron James. He prevented the Cavs from clinching a playoff spot in that one. And Luka Doncic, he went off. He had 42 points and 12 assists for the Lakers. Cavs struggled to guard him, and the Cavs were competitive in the game, but in the third quarter, the Lakers just started pulling away.
Yeah, very clearly a lot of the NBA's brightest stars are getting into that prime playoff form. I mean, Luka with 40, but I do love to see that the Cavs are really getting hot too. I mean, Donovan and Evan Mobley both going for 34, and I mean, a 34-point double-double is not a bad deal.
Not at all.
Logan, anything you want to chat about the Cavs?
I mean, first and foremost, Luke is averaging 40 over his last 13-ish games. I think I saw that on Twitter
MVP
today.
haters.
Exactly.
42 is just 3 points over his average this month.
Wow.
Unsurprising stuff out of Luka, to say the least.
Yeah, and I mean, just the Cavs are. I think it's a good team. They're doing it with struggles with injury. Jared Allen's been out recently. They're still trying to fit the Mobley and Allen pieces together, which I think is going to be the X factor come playoff time. So this last stretch of games is going to be huge if they can keep them healthy.
Speaking of playoff time, how are there 6 games left in this season? This season has flown by.
I know,
Like, I was
dude.
looking at the remaining Cavs schedule. Like, when I saw how little games were, I almost had a heart attack just because of how fast this NBA season has gone. Like, it went by like that.
Dude, I know. I'm getting my one NBA game of the season in here this weekend. I'm gonna go watch the Cavs face down the Pacers. I'm so stoked. But genuinely, I'm so excited to see the Cavs kind of get into that postseason form, especially with, I mean, like you said, Logan, they're kind of getting the last of the lineup stuff figured out, and I'm very excited to see because we've seen Kenny kind of get in the lab and experiment a little bit with these lineups. I'm very excited to see how the final form sort of shakes out as the playoffs roll around. But moving on to talking a little bit more about the playoffs, that is, the seeding is almost locked out. They're 3 games from second and a game behind the Knicks for third. So what is the sort of final rankings as we move towards that last half dozen games?
Yeah, so the Cavs are in the mix. They're still in fourth, but are 3.5 games behind the Celtics for second. So you never know. They could take second if they win. Boston loses some. But with the Knicks, they've been struggling lately, so there's a real possibility, like if the Knicks just kept struggling, the Cavs found the way to win their next few, that they could take over third place from them, and it's tight, and it'll be interesting to see how it finishes out.
Yeah. So for the fellow Cavs fans at the table, do you want to see the Cavs stay in that 4th seed, lock it up, and kind of rest the starters? Or do you think they're only a game back, they're 3.5 games back from the Celtics for the 2 seed? Do you want to see them try and make that push for a higher seed as the playoffs kind of close out?
I'm 50-50 on this, and it has kind of been the talk among Cavs fans over the last couple weeks because teams have really started to shoot up. Like the Hawks kind of came out of nowhere. The Raptors completed one of the biggest comebacks in NBA history the other day, and the Hornets are playing out of their mind. So there are a lot of teams towards I don't think seeding will matter in that first round. I think it's going to be a hard playoff matchup for any of those top 4 teams. Where it goes after that is where it gets interesting because with the Cavs stay at 4, they play Detroit. If they jump up, then they get either the Celtics or Knicks if they win those games. And I'm still so iffy on the Cavs in the postseason because of what I've seen these last couple years that I've just got to sit down and just pray for the best because they get out. They just get out. I feel like they get bullied. The teams just they out strengthen them. We saw the Pacers do it last year. Knicks did it the year before, 2 years before that, and the Magic and Celtics gave them their fair share of trouble. I
mean, the biggest concern has always been the undersized guard play getting bullied by in the playoffs, and I hate to say that they did solve the biggest problem in that regard in the trade that we've had so many question marks about. But I also would have to say that I think staying in the 4 seed, because you would have that second round playoff matchup with the Detroit Pistons, is so much more appealing in my opinion, just because the Cavs are so much more well-equipped to beat the Pistons than any other team.
Yeah.
I don't think you can take a first-round matchup for granted and say that you're just going to go win it and prepare for your second-round matchup, though, because you look at the East standings, and, man, they are a trip. Every team from the play-in and the 10th seed with the Hornets, who are the hottest team in the NBA as far as the last couple of months, they just started incredibly low. They sit at 40 and 36. Every team in the East playoff picture is over 500 at 40 wins or more. So, I mean, if you get a 4th seed, you're playing the Hawks, who are also one of the hottest teams in the NBA. If you get the 3 seed, you're playing the 76ers or the Raptors, who are just starting to figure it out as well. I think you go for as high as you possibly can get, whether that's the 2 or the 3 seed. If you stay at 4, you play that matchup and you prepare for the Pistons. But you can't take any of these first-round matchups for granted.
I fully agree. I did hate to kind of jump the gun. I was low-key. I did not 100% look at the where the Cavs would shake out and who they would play in the first round, but I was honestly just expecting the first-round playoff matchup with the Magic because they've had it every year for God knows how long at this point. But, I mean, yeah, I do agree, but I also think that the Cavs are so well-built to just kind of run the table, especially if they do face off with the Hawks, and then if they do face off Hawks Pistons, they would probably go Knicks or Celtics in the finals, and I think they could do it. All right.
I mean, what a turnaround for the East just as a whole. Logan, you just talked about how good those kind of bottom teams are. We looked at it the last couple of years, like the play-in invitational for the East has been so bad.
The 3 years running of the Bulls-Hawks playoff
and
invitational.
I was really upset
He was still there.
when Flag went to the Mavs because I didn't want him to go to the West. And if you look at the West playing right now, you got the Warriors in there, and the Warriors don't even have Curry right now. You have Pods as the leading scorer. No offense to Pods, but like it is insane, this 1-year transition from the East taking that step up. And I really like to see that as an NBA fan.
Yeah, you really did see kind of the jump from everything is in the West to everything's back in the East now. It's pretty great to see. All right, we've got one last topic for you. We're going to move on to the MLB as they have kicked off the regular season. I wore my Guardians jersey for this moment here. I mean, the Guardians and the Reds kicked off a hell of a start to their seasons. I mean, great kick to the Guards as they opened their season against the Mariners and the Dodgers. I mean, 3-4. As of this recording, they're going to kick off against their last matchup with the Dodgers here at about 8:20 as of recording. They should be, hopefully, 500 as of the time of this episode release, but we shall see. I mean, any other Guardians fans at the table want to give a little shout to how they've been playing?
I think this is exactly where you want to be as a Guards fan. You know, you played 2 really good teams. Mariners had a good push in postseason for MLB last season. Of course, it's the Dodgers, you know.
The billion-dollar Dodgers is the note that I put in here.
Playing 2 really good teams to start the season and being almost around 500, I think this is a really good start for them. And I don't know if you talked about it, but DeLauder. Oh my goodness, Connor. He has looked so good. He's single-handedly got me back into baseball, I can't lie. I mean, he's looked so good, and you know, we got to talk about his injury in the game against the Dodgers, which is thankfully not going to be super concerning. It's only going to be, it's a small bone bruise, but it's kind of worrisome just a little bit looking at DeLauder's past injury history I saw, you know, just like a background of it. But, you know, he's looked really good so far. He's second in the league in home runs.
Yeah, I mean, 4 home runs in your first 3 games is something that has not happened since 2016 when Trevor Story did it. And, I mean, that's the second time it's happened in MLB history. This dude is an unreal specimen of a batter. I mean, this dude is 6'3", 235. He is a huge force at the plate, and we've seen him do some serious damage. I know you mentioned the injury history. I am less concerned about that than anything just because I know the Guards have a good system around him, and I also know that we've got a couple guys in the farm system that should be getting the call-up soon. I'm interested to see if we see Travis Banzana get pulled up from Columbus once or twice to fill in Gabriel Arias' spot because he's not been playing too hot. But that's I'm just going to chalk that up to early season jitters. But, I mean, they wrap their series with the Dodgers. They're going to move on to a series against the Cubs and Kansas City, for the home openers. Going to be pretty sweet. Hopefully a few more wins in the right column. But we're going to move on to the Cincinnati Reds.
See, I'm a Guards fan, and I find it really funny when I see It's been really funny watching this Reds and Pirates series because I'm friends with a lot of Reds fans, I'm friends with a lot of Pirates fans, and watching them fight with each other about two teams that arguably are at the bottom of the NL is so funny to watch. The Reds are 3-3 right now. They've had some really interesting performances, to say the least. They beat the Red Sox 2-1 in a good series after dropping their first game. But this Pirates series, man, oh my goodness. I mean, Skeens is serving them up on a platter. O'Neal Cruz had a 3-run homer for the Pirates. I believe, that was today. And this is an aspect I've noticed in these two Reds losses to the Pirates where they really struggle once the bases get loaded. I mean, I was watching the highlights of those two Pirates games where they lost, and they get a lot of batters on the bases, and they just fall apart at the seams. And then you're down by 5 points. So, pitching just really has to be better for this Reds team.
Yeah.
But there is a bright spot in Sal Stewart. He's third in the league in batting average right now. He's played really well for them. But, I mean, the Reds are going to be the Reds. They're just going to kind of play with your feelings for the season, and we'll see what happens come October.
Yeah, you got to give credit to the young guys who are really kicking it off. I mean, Sal Stewart with a ripper of a batting average that, I mean, if he continues to stay hot, will probably be one for the history books. Yeah. And Chase DeLauder, if he gets back in the batter's box and keeps doing, I mean, unbelievable things, it should
God's
be pretty
work.
That is exactly what he does. He steps in the plate and does God's work. All right. Well, we're going to move on to the last segment of the day as we roll into Upset Watch, where we are going to pick our favorite upsets of the week. Well, we've got a couple of interesting ones. Let's kick it off with our NBA takes of the day. Ben, who have you got for us?
So, I got the Phoenix Suns upsetting the Charlotte Hornets. ESPN has given the Suns a 29.7% chance to win, and I think the Suns can make it tough on the Hornets. They like to play physical. They got Dylan Brooks, who could be a disruptor. Dylan Brooks will mellow ball. That'll be fun. And the Suns, they played a tough West, and they played good competitive ball, so it's gonna be a fun one.
Absolutely. You love to see some chaotic basketball, especially this time of year. Luke, we'll flip it over to you for the other big NBA take of the day.
I don't even know why I'm picking the Lakers at this point. I picked them a lot. I picked them against the Nuggets. I think I picked them against the Warriors before, and they can't take care of business, but I really like the way the Lakers have been playing as of late. I think this is different from when I picked them in the past. I think this will be a new era of Lakers upset watch. The ESPN match predictor has the Thunder at 70% odds, Lakers 30. Lakers, of course, like you mentioned, Ben, they just took care of business against the Cavs last night. They are on a 15-2 stretch since March 1st. Really loving LeBron in his new role, having Luka be that guy and him kind of step back and just be that good presence for the team. And my goodness, that man can still catch a lob. I saw that last night and I was losing my mind as a Cavs fan.
Getting flashbacks, dude. It was gorgeous.
And Luka's going to take this MVP slide personally, and I hope he serves it to SGA, have a fun MVP clash in this game.
We need to do a super cut of all of the NBA upset watches. See
They
how
just
we're
have
really
not
doing.
gone.
They just have completely gotten dunked on.
Yeah.
All right, switching over to the pitch for a change. Haven't had this one in a while. Kasey, give us the breakdown.
Yeah, I'm going with National Women's Soccer League. I'm picking Orlando Pride to upset Angel City. It's 155 on the money line. That's going to be April 3rd at 8 p.m. Angel City's got Giselle Thompson. That's who everyone wants to talk about, but she can't defend the whole back line. I think the money line is so large because of the standings, but Angel City is tied for 4 other teams in the league for the first place spot. So it's not that dramatic. I think I got this one.
Absolutely. All right, Logan, take us home with the Hockey League.
I'm not much of a hockey guy. None of the Final Four lines were convincing enough for me to take any of them. So I went Canadiens versus Rangers. Canadiens upsetting New York upsetting the Canadiens. Nick Suzuki and Cole Caulfield for Montreal have had incredible seasons. Suzuki is 7th in the league in points. Caulfield 2nd in goals. But I think Igor Shesterkin in goal for the Rangers. It's Connor White. Stop smiling at me like that. I know what I'm talking about. Starting over. But I think Igor Shesterkin and goal for them, 24 wins, 16 losses. He's second in the league, though, in save percentage, 91.2. I think they've got a shot.
Alrighty, way to go, Logan. Good take. Let the voice of Jake Collins speak through you. All right, we're gonna kick it off. We're gonna close it out with our weekly awards. Our SportsBeat Game of the Week. We are going down to the Track and Field Cherry Blossom Invitational that is going down this weekend, where Ohio will get to host their meet of the year. Great time to celebrate the spring weather. Cherry blossoms are gorgeous this time of year. Try and make it down there. And our player of the week is Allie Turner from the women's golf team. Turner finished 15th at the Georgia State Invitational, and it is Turner's best placement this year. Alrighty, well, thank you so much for tuning into SportsBeat on WOUB. I'm your host, Conor Mallonn, and joining me at the table today has been
Luke Schmitt.
Kasey Hill.
Logan Adams.
Ben Axelrod.
You can listen to WOUB 1340 AM radio at 9 p.m. on Thursdays, or you can listen on our SoundCloud, Spotify, Apple Podcast, Amazon Music, and YouTube accounts. You can follow us on Instagram at SportsBeatWOUB for more digital content. We'll see you next week. This has been SportsBeat.